So, what I'm going to talk about is everything else that I do with the Moodle. And the first thing I want to do is something I didn't for the last session. Before I got here today, I set up a Lake Region faculty Moodle. This is in the Moodle. Anybody can go and log in. When you do, you'll be enrolled as a student. But we set it up for discussions, and then we never really used it much. So today I modified it to include some resources for the tech showcase, including a link to Jeff Coburn's Wikispaces account, a live chat, so you can ask questions, and we can follow the questions on the screen and answer them. We've got a place where you can rate our presentation, go give it a score of 1 to 4. This was useful, this was garbage. We've got a practice forum in here where you can ask questions and we'll post answers back. And we've got a sample quiz. And I'll come back and I'll touch on all of these, but first I want to go to the notebook software. And the reason I'm using some of the notebook software today at all is because I'm going to be pulling up student quizzes and student responses, and I've blacked out the names, just like Christina did. So, when you get into the Moodle and you turn on editing so you can add resources and add activities for the kids to do, it can appear a little overwhelming. All of a sudden, everything in the Moodle has all these little icons after it. They all do the same thing. You hover over any icon and it will come up and tell you what it does. So just be patient and hover and you'll get some clues. When the students log in, they don't see all that. The student login is a little bit cleaner with just resources and activities for them. If you have some sort of online project, or they're creating PowerPoints, or they're writing Word documents, and you want to get access to those files without having to print and collect, or just watch something that's presented by a projector and then that's it, you don't have a copy of the file, you can use the Moodle to accept files. They can turn in anything here. And so I use this a lot in my CAD class. We do drawing after drawing, so they're always spitting out technical drawings for me to grade, and I use the Moodle to collect that. So here's what I would see if I went into an assignment. Let's say it said it had 12 or 13 students who had turned something in. You get your student name, you get a quick drop down where you can add a grade, a place for comments, you get a link to their file. Underneath the link to the file, highlighted in yellow here, you get the time that they turned it in, so you know exactly when these things are coming in. Next to that, you get a time and date stamp for when you looked at it, when you added a grade or a comment. You also get additional information over on this side, whether or not something needs to be graded. If it needs to be graded, it's highlighted in yellow, and the yellow is just not showing up very well on the projector. But you can look at an assignment and look at all the yellow blocks and go, okay, those are the ones I need to take a look at, I haven't done yet. You can always come in and update these grades, and you can refer back to these files over and over again. In addition, if you do quizzes, it will tell you how long students took to complete a quiz. And you can get a general feeling for whether or not, even if the student got it right, whether or not they're experiencing problems maybe with the format, maybe with the questions, maybe with the styles of the answers that you're asking for. I can see with a quick scan that most of these people took maybe 4 minutes to finish a quiz. And then there's some that took 16, 19 minutes. There was a problem there. And so I might want to keep a close eye on those students to figure out what was the problem. And you got a score right beside it, so you can very quickly judge whether it was a problem and they did well, or whether it was a problem and they really didn't have it. In addition, you can dig even further. I'm going to come back down. You can get just a quick chart. How well did everybody do as a class? I obviously need to go back and reteach some of this material, because the failing mark, I believe 65 is right around here. So these guys bombed it, and I got a wide spread as far as everybody else performing in the rest of the class. Another thing you can do with the Moodle, and this is more of a navigation frame, it just shows you how to get there, so I'm going to skip over it for now and I'll come back. Andres showed us this at several faculty gatherings. So for LR teachers, this shouldn't look new, but it's a new way to do it. It's a heck of a lot easier. When you give an assignment, and let's say you get 6 or 8 different answers back on this quick formative assessment. You need to know where your kids are. You need to know how well they're doing in all the different areas and where they're struggling so you can go back and reteach. And you also need to know which kids in particular are really struggling and where. Moodle does all of this for you. Each line is a single student. Each column is one of the questions on the formative assessment that I gave them. So I can look across individual students and see this student has a problem. I'm going to go take a very close look at everything he's doing. And the student down here is struggling. And we got several that they have some gaps in their knowledge.
So how do you set that up? So you know,
It's automatic. There is no setup.
Well, I've used quizzes before, but I've never seen that before.
I'll show you how to get there.
Because I want to know specifically which question did they get wrong.
Yep.
Because I randomized everything.
Yep.
And then I had the grade automatically go in, just they could see the grade they got, and it went into their class.
Right.
But I didn't see that report.
It's there. I will show you that. That's one of the slides I just skipped, actually. And then these are the questions. Even if they're randomized in this layout, it lines the questions up so question 1 matches, even though it was different for all the kids. And I can see quickly that question 1 for me had a mix. Green, they got it. Yellow, they only got partial credit. Red, they didn't get it at all. And I've got some of these where everybody was green, except for the one student. I'm doing all right here. I probably don't need to go back and retouch that. But I've got another category over here where it's almost all red. I've obviously got to go back and reteach that content. Now, as far as how to get there, that is in your navigation window on the side. So this is a slightly blown up version of it, but it's fuzzy, so I'm going to come over here to Firefox. When you go into your navigation, you've got quizzes, and I don't know if I'm getting responses for this. When you open that up, you get results here, and you can go down to responses,
Okay.
and that's that chart page I was just at.
Navigation results.
Yep.
Okay.
So it only appears when you, that particular menu appears when you create a quiz.
Yes. Yep. And it's titled a quiz because it asks quiz type questions, essays, short answer, multiple choice, true, false, but you don't have to use it as a quiz. It doesn't have to be a quiz. It can be a test. It can be a poll. It can be whatever you want to use it for. But Moodle always calls them quizzes. So that's where that comes from. While I'm in here, I might as well show you this quiz. If I can bring up a quick preview of it. Where's my preview button? There we go. This is one of the fun things you can do with this. Alright, so I just threw 3 random questions in here so I can quickly sample this out. What is the product of 8 and 12? Well, let's assume a student doesn't know what product is. And I'm going to put an answer in here. And check that answer. And these are extra features you can turn on. These are not on by default, so kids don't automatically get multiple attempts at questions, but they can. And you can add hints. It says, oh, remember, you must multiply numbers together to actually get the product. And so they can go try again, and they can change their answer and recheck it, and you can add as many attempts as you want in there. And when they're all done, it will give them further feedback on how well they did, on what areas they might need to work on, and any other instructions you want to give them. So frequently I'll have mine set up at certain point breaks. So at, say, a 70, I'm going to leave them a comment that says they are struggling in some areas, and they need to see me, and when they see me, they're going to ask about this, this, and this. And then I'll go back and I'll work with them individually.
Now I see you have different kinds of questions. So every single question you do in the quiz, you have a choice of a type.
Yep.
Because this one's filling, this one you actually type in, the other one's a multiple choice.
Right.
Okay.
Short answer, essay.
So every single, isn't like a format for a certain quiz?
So there is.
Wow.
So if I go into my Moodle here and I turn editing on, it's going to get a little bit more chaotic. We're going to get a lot more buttons on the screen, but you get a couple of drop-down menus as well. And these are at the end of every one of these large activity blocks. And you can add resources, you can link to files, folders, other web pages for the students to use in class, but you can add activities. And I use all of the different assignment activities, uploading multiple files, doing online text instead of using word processing, they write right in Moodle, uploading a single file, Or even if I just want to outline what they're going to do for an offline activity, I'll put it in the Moodle. I do 100% paperless. And if I go to add a quiz, it's going to bring up the quiz window. And I get to name the quiz. That's not really very centered. Name it, put a description, choose when this is turned on or when it's turned off. Decide whether or not I want it to be timed, so the kids only have so much time to actually do this. How many attempts I'm going to give them. How I want to work with those attempts. Do I want to take the highest grade, the average, first, last? All of these are worth playing with. Now, one thing I will tell you as I get right here is my classrooms are all set up for very independent project-based learning. And so after the first week of school, I have kids all over the place in the curriculum. I have people who are still working on the second assignment because this is really new to them and they're struggling in that area. And I have kids who are like, woohoo, I love this. And they're already 5 or 6 assignments in. So they start to spread out. As such, I never know exactly when somebody's going to be taking one of these quizzes. And sometimes it might be a quiz or an actual test. And I don't want them looking over at their neighbor. Okay, let's take this quiz at the same time. What do you got? What do you got? Okay. So you can shuffle your questions. And you can decide how many questions are going to appear on the screen at once. And if you're using a lot of multiple choice, you can shuffle the options within the questions. So I will have 2 kids sitting side by side taking quizzes and looking at entirely different questions. And you can set up a question bank, so you can have 15 or 20 questions ready to roll and ask Moodle to pull 5 or 10 random questions. So they may never even see the same question. Depends on how much.
Question bank, I typed them all in.
It is a bit of a pain, but it's like the testing software that you get with a lot of textbooks. You get a bank of questions, and you get to pull from those questions to build your quizzes. But unlike something you get from a textbook, you're the one building the questions. The advantage is, after using this for a few years, I've got quite a bank of questions I can pull from at any given time, and I can throw a quiz together now really quite quickly.
I was reading that you're supposed to be able to set this earlier and import from like ExamView all the questions, but I couldn't.
I've never tried it. I am not a textbook guy. I owned a textbook about 10 years ago, and since that time, all of our resources,
A lot of good questions in ExamView.
all of our resources are now online. I use open source everything and free websites. So I design the curriculum from scratch. If they need to read a chapter, that chapter's in the Moodle. There's no book to go to.
So what happens is if you take the time at the initial stage,
It
next
pays
year
off.
you might build on it, maybe tweak it, but you don't have to start from scratch.
How do you put the chapter in
That's-
there? Actually, that brings up another. So you have just the text, or you have it's a PDF that you click on, or where do they?
No, because I don't work with textbooks.
Right,
I
so-
work with
so you
online
throw
resources.
everything?
So I'm going to other websites.
Okay.
And so, for instance, my resources may be. I'm gonna whip my board up here.
Show one of the,
Yep.
one of your chapters.
Let me go back here. Actually, I guess that's not the way to do it. Interesting. Oh gosh. All right, let me jump back to my CAD course. Okay, so this is computer-aided design. A lot of technical drawing here. And in the beginning, it's heavy on resources. So I want these students to know how to do some of these things so we can get moving really quickly. And so this would be a reading assignment. And it's jumping right to this CAD tutor website. It's not mine. And they can read this article, and then I have activities based on this.
So if they change that article, you have to find that article.
Yes. Disadvantage is sometimes things disappear. The advantage is the ones that don't are frequently more up to date than any sort of printed material would be. And for things that have disappeared, I've been able to go into history and go into the, I don't know if any of you know about the Wayback Machine.
Yeah.
Okay. And go get copies of those pages and say, wow, okay, this is disappearing, but it's still really valuable. and then I'll just copy the content and I'll physically post it in the Moodle rather than linking out to the page again. Just because at that point it's starting to feel like some of this important stuff that I want to hang on to is disappearing. In addition to posting things that they can read, I'll frequently post videos for the students who just, they're not getting this. Reading is not what they do. The information is not sinking in, so they can go watch some of the actual video resources, and maybe they're going to get it that way. And so I won't say, sit down and go right through all of this. I will say, everybody sit down, and I want you to open up, let's say this first one here, and we're going to read that, and then I'm going to do an activity with you, and I'm going to very quickly judge from there who can go on to, okay, you're good enough. Let's try some of those skills out here on this drawing, and this didn't work for you. Let's sit down and try looking at this video instead. And so we start bouncing around the Moodle, just using the resources in it, but not going necessarily in order. Lost my place. Let me go back to the book, catch back up with myself here. I don't use this so much in the CAD course, but I have a television course as well, and we do a lot of writing in there. And this is where I use the Moodle for constructive responses and other essays. And what happens is the kids go in, they've got a writing prompt, they might have a reading linked to right in that same spot, and they'll have an editing button. And they'll click on that, and they can begin writing immediately right inside the Moodle. And I get their response. I get a place to assign a grade, and I get a place to leave comments down below, which can include, and has many times in the past, taking their entire response, putting it down here, and adding my comments right within their own stuff. So I'll change the font color. I'll write in red or purple where their text is in black, or I'll highlight sections and make extra comments. It's not quite like a word track changes where you can make a comment bubble off to the side, but it does get the point across, and it is pretty quick and easy. Now, rubrics were a problem for me at first. I tried to figure out how to work a rubric into the Moodle when Moodle doesn't really seem to support that. And then it occurred to me that actually it was a lot easier than I was making it. I just take the rubric, it's a link in the assignment, it's just a resource like anything else. They click on that, they get either a web view or a PDF view of the rubric, and my rubric has numbers on it. So then when I'm in here making comments on their work and grading it, I'll just put in the categories of the rubric. Say, here's how you score in the rubric. And I'll give them their number score in those categories, and that matches up to the rubric without me having to include a physical rubric here.
So you're saying you post it, just cut and paste?
The rubric? Yep.
Their actual score for that is?
Like in this one, you can't quite read it, but purpose, organization, there's a few others there, and I will say, 4 out of 4, or 2 out of 4, and I'll leave the comments as to why did you score 4 or
So
2
when you,
points there.
this is their writing above it?
Yep.
And then you open it up, you hit that little pencil, and you
Yep.
open it up and you paste, or you write in the box for each kid.
For each kid.
And that one's in black instead of, is that blue?
This instance here, this is all my writing. In this case, I did not take the kids' work and add stuff to it. This was just my written comment to it. And that was an 85 out of 100. I can't quite see the categories well enough to say where it went wrong. But yeah, you can do both depending on what that student needs.
And you're the only one to see it?
Me and the student. Moodle has a gradebook built in, so students can go into settings and they can look at their own grades, and they can click on a grade and go see what the feedback was on that particular assignment. Running out of time.
So it's individualized for the kids. You can put comments right in. I haven't used that part. I'm gonna use it a little bit, but
Yep.
so they can open their account.
They can open their account and see.
Their grade.
Yes.
So I never go home. Type it in.
Yep. Yep. I type in there all the time. And when the kids first come in, they're not really used to that. And so I have to tell them to go look at their grades and look for those comments. But after 1 or 2 times of that, they sit down, and before they're at the new assignment, they're looking at the grades. Hey, what did I get? Oh, why did I get this? And then usually without prompting, they're asking me a couple of questions while I'm working with somebody else, and I look back and they're retaking an assignment. They're fixing a drawing, they're editing their written response, or they're retaking a quiz or something. So really, once you get it going, it really works well. And actually, I think that was all my prepared stuff. Cool. All right, back to the Moodle then. So resources, individual file uploads, quizzes, homeworks. You can do Moodle inside of class, you can do Moodle outside of class. You can control when students are allowed to log in, where they're allowed to log in from. I have traditionally left it wide open. They can get into it anytime from anywhere. And 99% of the time, nobody tries to take advantage of that. Just the other week, I had a student who just was having an off day, didn't want to do anything in class that day. He said, no, I'm not going to do this, and I had expected him to take a quiz. He said, I'll just log in later with so-and-so friend, and we'll get it done from study hall. I said, oh, no, I don't think so. So I just went in and locked it down so it was only open during class time. And we're gonna work through this in class, and no, you're not taking advantage of the system. But in general, that just doesn't happen.
Are there any passwords for certain links?
There are.
See, it is a quiz, and you want.
Yeah. We're gonna add an activity. We're gonna go in and add a quiz. And right in the settings page here, in addition to the name and the description and when it's open, where is this? Require a password. You can type a password in there. Require a network address. You can put in the school's IP address so that they can't access it from outside. You definitely have control over it.
Because what if you want it open, but yet
you want to open to only those students? Yeah, then you can give them a password.
Okay.
Waiting between attempts, you can do that too.
The wait in between attempts, and I do this for all of mine. I force a delay of 22 hours. I found 24 doesn't work. What if they take it at the end of the class and they'd like to retake it the next day at the beginning of class? And then I found a 2-hour delay throws things all off.
Or Wednesday advisory day.
Or a Wednesday advisory day. So I put in a 22-hour delay, and that way the next day when class rolls around, they can reattempt some of these things. And I really work with close to mastery learning. I want them to have a passing grade of 80 or above, so they're going to keep retaking this stuff until they get there.
So you can limited attempts or
I do limit it, so they can't just keep doing it.
for most retakes.
I typically give 3 attempts, and if something seems easy and maybe easy to abuse, I'll knock that back down to 2 attempts. Or if something is really challenging to students, after they've maxed out that 3, it's like, wait a minute, there's a bigger problem here, and we'll go over the whole, whatever that subject is again, and then I'll open up one more attempt and check and see how we're doing at that point. But once you set this kind of information, you can modify it at any time. So you can go back in and say, well, I need another attempt, or we need to lock this down now. Let's cancel out of this. Now, one thing that I have found that Moodle does not do very well is blogs. For whatever reason, Moodle by default sets itself up so that if a student creates a blog, which is becoming a very, very popular thing now, it's visible to every single Moodle user in the Aksu district. It's not locked into the course in any way, shape, or form. There's no blog section to go to, and that's been a detriment. More times than I care to imagine, I've clicked on the blogs to see if, oh, maybe there's an update in this version and we can use it again, and there's somebody's homework assignment from an English class. It's like, well, that has no point being here. So what I've started doing is I've used EDU 2.0, and I literally just started doing this. I tried it out Thursday in class. I'm building this. I've got a Lego robotics class that's sort of coming back to life. We've got a 200-pound steel robot powered by wheelchair motors and car batteries. And we're going to be using the Legos to control that thing. And so one of the things I wanted them to be able to do was blog about their experience. So I linked to edu2.0.org, and it's actually edu20. They don't put a .0 in there. They just put it in the title. And let me return. I'll go this way. In here, this is just like Moodle as far as what you can do. Assignments and discussions and turning in files and posting resources. Moodle is installed on our OPSU servers, and there's lots of teachers in the district that use it. So you can get some help with Moodle pretty quick and easy. Whereas EDU 2.0 is kind of like Google. It's out there in the cloud somewhere. We don't control it. And it's free to a point. If you want some extra features that I haven't found a need for yet, they offer plans where you can start paying so much per month for those features. But other than that, it has a little bit of a flashier presentation to it, and that has appealed to some people. Stephanie, for instance. But if you start digging deep into this, what I've found so far is it's just as complicated as Moodle, if not more so. Moodle, at this point, has all of our student accounts and teacher accounts already in it, which is really nice. But that only just happened this year. EDU 2.0, you've got to start creating student accounts again.
You yourself have to manage it.
Yes. Which has its bonuses, because you don't have to go to somebody else and say, this student doesn't know their password. But I tell you what, after I created this blog space the other day, I couldn't find any way on this system to get my students into it. It took me another 25 to 30 minutes to find how to add students to this thing. One of the things you could do is send...
Lunch is being served by the 8th grade students for their class trip. It's $5 if you'd like to have lunch. It's down in the cafeteria. And session 5 begins at 1:15.
One of the things you can do to get kids in is send an email to them. So I thought that was going to be fairly straightforward. I sent emails to the students I wanted in this, and they never got them. So I'm waiting for them to come back Monday to see if they ever got them. Maybe there was just some sort of delay. So instead of using their blogs to show you today, I made a generic student account myself last night and threw in just a quick fake blog entry. You can include pictures, you can include video. So we use the flip video cameras a lot. These guys are going to be filming the robots, and they're going to be uploading those.
I got a quick question before time runs out. What's the difference between a Moodle forum and a blog?
A Moodle forum is set to be a threaded discussion. Lots and lots of back and forth.
Right.
It's kind of like sending email back and forth, only all in one place. Whereas a blog is more one-sided.
So they just post, they don't need response, it's just...
You post, other people can comment on it, but it's not set up so you can easily just read the whole discussion. It's set up so you can read the post, and then you can go down through and you can read the comments if you want.
It's just set up a little differently.
Yeah. Yeah, and the forums really don't support any of this sort of, more of a timeline. That's the other thing you get with a blog. You get the entry for Monday, then you'll get an entry for Tuesday, and you can kind of scroll back in time and see how things have gone. And the forums are set up differently where it's topic-based rather than time-based. And so, there's what you got there. Now, one thing that we're doing today, mostly for the last session, is we ran out of time and I cut Christina off. So this time around, we videotaped it. My lovely wife over here with my flip video camera has been recording the whole time. I'm going to post this video up on the Lake Region Faculty Moodle, so that anybody can go in and watch it again. I can skip back there real quick. There we go, online.opsu.org. You all know you can log into Moodle already. Your accounts already exist. First, well, I won't say first name, last name, that's students. Whatever you use to log into your network folder will work to log into Moodle. So any of you can log in. You can navigate to the main page here showing all the different courses. And mine's not quite fitting on the screen, but there is a Lake Region section, and then in that there's a faculty section, and you can find the faculty Moodle. I gave you a lot of information, so did Christina. Any questions? Okay. I guess it's lunchtime. Thank you.